Hello beautiful people, my name is Venti and today I'm bringing you the Booktube Watching tag, sort of. So I was tagged to do this video by Matt over at MCS Books, and he is one of the most insightful and well-spoken people that I've ever seen here on YouTube. And what he did with the Booktube Watching tag was sort of create a discussion video about what identity means on Booktube and how we all, through our channels and the content we create as well as the content we consume, create a sort of identity here on the internet. Because obviously what you see of people on the internet is not always a 100% accurate representation of who they are in real life, and it doesn't have to be. I feel like depending on where you are, depending on the environment that you're in, you're going to sort of present in a slightly different way. So after watching Matt's video, a friend of mine and I were talking about labels, and we sort of came to the conclusion that labels like, for example, department store jeans or Hogwarts houses never fit anyone 100% exactly. They are more like lines of best fit in a scatter plot, where each point of the scatter plot represents a person who ascribes that label to themselves. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll have a little picture of what I mean up here. Basically, the idea is that the labels we choose to identify ourselves with might not be the ones that another person would choose to identify you with. And my question is, which is more important, how others see you or how you see and present yourself? So I started thinking about what booktube and booktubing and booktuber means as a label to each one of us. And I think it's a pretty different thing depending on who you ask. There's even sub-factions of booktube depending on the readership. So there's YA booktube, and then there's adult booktube. By genre, there's literary fiction booktube and commercial fiction booktube, and even by language spoken. For example, there's Spanish-speaking booktube, which is enormous compared to English-speaking booktube, and if you don't speak Spanish, you might not be exposed to that part of booktube at all. And I guarantee you, a booktuber who reads exclusively YA commercial fiction in Spanish is going to have a different idea of what it means to booktube than somebody who exclusively reads and creates video essays for literary fiction published in Norway. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's somebody who fits that exact niche. What I'm trying to say is the scatter plot for the people that would call themselves booktubers is probably massive and varied, and I want to see what the line of best fit for that would be. Obviously, I can't know everyone's mind, so I'm thinking that via using the questions in the Booktube Watching tag, I can sort of create a case study of myself and find out where on the scatter plot I would fit and what parts of me are more or less related to that line of best fit that is booktubing. Hopefully that makes any semblance of sense. I'm going to be answering the questions of the Booktube Watching tag, and I'll have them down below if you want to follow along. I probably should have scripted this better before starting, but I didn't, and hopefully by now you're used to that. So without further ado, let's get into the questions and my answers, and we'll see what we can glean from them in the end. So question number one is, how many channels are you subscribed to on YouTube? I'm subscribed to 158 channels, and I thought it was a lot more, but it turns out it's not. I think the reason that the number went down is because when I started BookTube and throughout my booktubing journey these past couple months, I sort of started trimming the fat. I didn't used to touch my subscription box. I didn't used to delete subscriptions. If I'd subscribed, I thought I was going to be a lifetime subscriber, but I realized that there were channels that were cluttering up my feed, and I realized that the ones that I thought were cluttering up my feed were the ones that had nothing to do with subjects that I'm still interested in. Of those 158 subscriptions, less than 20 are to channels that have nothing to do with writing, reading, literature, etc. The content that they create tends to be visual art or film. These are other interests that I have besides literature, but since most of my interests center around writing, reading, and now booktubing, I think that it makes sense that the content that I consume is primarily devoted to the things that I want to create as well. I guess that would be an answer to question number 4. I mean, I study writing, literature, and publishing in school. I want to be a published author when I grow up, and I think that one of the best ways to move forward with that goal is to sort of immerse myself in the world that I want to be in. I want to write YA fantasy. That is my goal. Obviously, it doesn't always have to be fantasy. I'm going to come up with probably some sci-fi stories or contemporary contemporary stories, depending on where my brain takes me, but that's the sort of thing I like to read. So I think it makes sense that it's the sort of thing I want to hear people talking about primarily. And it's also the sort of thing that I want to create. So I want to stay up to date on what people are interested in and responsive to, because I might write, the best book in the world, but if no one wants to read it, then it's just gonna sit on my hard drive forever. And I feel like it's not gonna be a waste of time, because it's still a thing that I created myself and I'm proud of creating, because writing a book is a massive accomplishment, but I do need to eat. And if I want to be an author full time, then my books are gonna be what feeds me. And that can't work if nobody's going to buy them. This is why I find question number 3 a little odd. How do you balance your booktube watching, creating, and reading times? Because to me, they all take up the same subset of time, which is detox/hobby time. And I don't have an issue really with balancing them. I film when I want to film, I read when I want to read, which is always, and I watch when I want to watch. I never feel like one is detracting from another. If I ever felt that way, I think that would be a signal that I needed to reevaluate and reassess my priorities, and I think I'm pretty comfortable with where my priorities are right now. I think that's visible when you see my videos. They're not the most beautifully edited, well-lit, consistent things. They're just things that I do to make me happy, and I don't mind that. I am incredibly grateful to all of you that tune in to my little messy videos every single week, but I have no illusions that I am the world's best video editor, because it's not a priority of mine. My priority is to get out here and talk to you guys and create a dialogue about books, because it's a thing that we're all passionate about, not making my video the most beautiful one you've ever seen, right? My priority is viewing and engaging with you guys on the content that you create, and not, I don't know. This is turning into a giant rambling mess, and I don't know how to fix that. Basically, I find that the balance creates itself because of the priorities that I've set for myself. So question number 4 I already touched on. Is there a difference between the videos that you like to create and the ones that you like to watch? And I don't really know how to answer this. The videos that I create, again, are going to be reflections of the things that I value and the things that I like to read. So if I like to read those things, I think it makes sense that I like to watch other people talk about them. There are definitely exceptions where I like to hear people speak intelligently about things that I have absolutely no knowledge on. There's an absolutely stunning channel here on YouTube. It's called Page Turns, where this absolute sweetheart and super intelligent, well-spoken woman named Emily speaks about children's books, horror and children's books, and it's just fascinating because I don't read very much horror, and the children's books I do read tend to be like higher middle grade, where she talks about like kids books, and it's just fascinating to hear her discuss these things because I have no knowledge on them, and it's really interesting to hear her input about that. So yes and no. I like my little echo chamber that I've created, wherein I can glean the most pertinent information for my tentative, hopeful future career, but I also just like hearing other people who are enthusiastic about different things than me, because I feel like that is just as valuable in its own way. Question number 5 is, who is the first booktuber you subscribed to, and are you still subscribed to them? I don't actually know. It's either Ariel Bossette or Katie-tastic, or Caddy-tastic. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I think I stumbled across both of them because I was looking for videos about writing, because as you might have guessed, that is goal numero uno for me. And both of their channels had resources for writing. I'm still subscribed to both of them, and I'm grateful to them because it was through them that I found this community of booktube, and I wish that I had gained the courage to join it sooner, because it's such a wonderful, welcoming community, and it's far larger and more multifaceted than I ever could have imagined when just watching the two of them. Question number 6 is, who's the most recent booktuber you subscribed to? And honestly, I have no idea. And same goes for questions 7 and 8, like pick an old favorite and a new favorite booktuber. I have no idea. The content that I consume and the things that I find interesting are fairly variable. My subscription list, because of the nature of my watching, because I try to watch every video that a content creator creates that I'm subscribed to, leads to some pretty significant subscription box turnover. If a creator stops creating the sort of content that I enjoy, if they stop creating content altogether, or if, basically for whatever reason, if I stop being interested, I unsubscribe because I want to use those watching hours on somebody else, somebody that I am interested in. I don't think that there's really any problem with that. And that's changed a little bit because I've made some friends here on YouTube, and now that there's this overlap with like people that I'm close with and really enjoy who also happen to speak about books. And I never thought that overlap would happen because in my real life so few people have that interest. And because I care about these people, because we've had conversations outside of the confines of YouTube, and I feel like I know them as people, even if they started creating content that I was less interested in, I don't think I'd unsubscribe because of who they are as people. So I guess that's another facet to it, not just the content they create, but the person behind the content. This is getting more complicated than I thought it would. Question number 9 is, what is one of your bookish pet peeves? And I don't have them. I am glad that I'm mature enough as a human being to know that if I dislike something or if I have a problem with something, I can make it go away. I think the best advice that my father ever gave me was, if you can ignore a thing, like if it's not doing you any harm, if it's not doing anyone else any harm, but it bothers you, just if you don't have to deal with it, don't deal with it. So if I hear a channel spout any racist, misogynist, transphobic bigotry, I'm unsubscribed. Done. I don't have to deal with that person anymore. And the problem with that kind of stuff is racism and misogyny, etc., do harm people elsewhere. So I try to spread the word about that kind of stuff. But if it's just something as, not really important as they just stop talking about the kinds of books that I like, or they've decided to not have a focus on books anymore, but rather do, makeup, lifestyle stuff that I'm not as interested in, then it's, as simple as hitting a button and saying, I don't want to view your content anymore. So I don't have bookish pet peeves because if somebody consistently does something that bothers me, I just don't invest the time into watching them anymore. Question number 10 is, what have I learned from other booktubers? And honestly, I could make an entire video about this question, and I'm smiling just thinking about it because it's my favorite part of this community, is that we learn from each other. We're all monoliths and islands in some ways, and we're very much not in others. We're like an archipelago. When you create a video, it's inherently an individual thing. You are sitting, usually alone, perhaps with a friend if you're doing a collaboration, and you're talking at a camera, you're editing what you've said. So not only is the video from your point of view and through your own sort of biased lens of the world, then you're further editing it to make that bias clear and concise, and you're reframing your existing bias through your bias again, if that makes sense. And I don't mean bias in a negative way, just how people view the world. No one is an objective creature. And then after you've edited and reviewed it, you post it and you tag it so that people who search specific tags find that video. So the video that you create is an individual thing. It is a reflection of your values, your interests, etc. But then you tag it so that people with this shared interest can find your video and interact with it, and then people comment down below and start dialogues with you and like it to show support and dislike it to show that they disagree with what you had to say. And then your individual project becomes not only yours, but it becomes what other people bring to it. So I think that the most important things that I've learned from other booktubers is how to create those interactions. That I think that I've learned that I want to create content that has value, that makes people want to interact with it, because I don't want to be an island. I definitely want to be part of an archipelago that's pretty close-knit. Perhaps there's bridges tying us all together that people can easily get from one to the other. With this metaphor is getting a little out of hand. So is this entire video. Basically, from you guys, I've learned that I want this to not be as individualistic as I thought it might be when I first started this. Going back to the original framing point of this video, the identity that I've created on this platform, I don't want it to be individualistic. I want the identity that I've created on here to be an open and welcoming persona, wherein people feel empowered to share their ideas about the ideas that I think are important. The ideas that I create are always going to start with me because I'm the one creating the video and editing it through my biased lenses, but I want to create content that you guys want to engage with. And sometimes, like this video, for example, my idea will actually be born of the seed of an idea that one of you guys created, because our islands have met briefly in the ocean that is Booktube. I really need to come up with a new metaphor before posting this. I don't know what that want says about me, the want to not just be alone. And I don't know if that's a thing you guys get when you see from my videos, so maybe it's ridiculously egotistical of me to ask even, but what do you guys come away with when you watch my videos? Do you come away with anything? Is watching me just a detox from the stresses of the day, or is it food for thought? Matt, I'm sorry, I've made an entire mess of this video, and I'm sorry for attaching yours to it. If you guys are craving a video that actually makes sense, please watch his in the description box below and leave a response to it, because he's just really clever and great, and I wish that I was, and this is my sad attempt to sort of respond to what he said by making it all about me. Oh God. Since I technically answered all of the tag questions, I guess I could tag people to do the booktube watching tag, but I don't feel that this video was that so much as it was a small booktube identity crisis, and I don't want anyone to have an identity crisis, but if you want to do the tag, then you're tagged. Here you go. Questions are down below if you want to answer them. But if you found this intriguing in any way and it's made you think about where you fit on the booktube scatterplot, please let me know what intersects of identity create your point on that graph and how close you think it is to what the label of booktubing should be. If you like this video, I assume that you've managed to glean something from that absolute mess. So congratulations. Give me a thumbs up if you think I deserve it. And if you'd like to see more of this awkward teenage girl, not even teenage, if you'd like to see more of my bookish rambles, please subscribe to this channel. As I said before, I highly encourage you guys to go check out Matt's video. Hopefully you did that before watching this video, which might make this one make a little more sense because it gives it a bit of context, but also not because Matt's made sense and this is just a giant ramble. I'm gonna stop now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.